We're not going away. This mother's heartbreak that I carry, this life sentence that I have, no one should ever bear this burden.
I am here today to remind Congress what happened to my family, to remind them of what keeps happening in America.
6 months, 6 minutes, 6 years, an eternity already. So we're here for the marathon that this is, because, at least in my case, and I know there's others that echo it, we really have no choice.
5,000 more Americans have died due to gun violence since December 14th. And there still hasn't been any federal action to protect us from gun violence.
Those are words of Newtown families in Washington meeting lawmakers yet again, pressing for new gun laws and also reading the names of the 26 killed at Sandy Hook Elementary and the more than 5,000 other Americans who have become victims of gun violence in just the past 6 months since the massacre in Southwest Connecticut. Now tomorrow, it does mark the 6-month anniversary since that awful day. And many of us thought it was a day that was going to frankly change everything when it comes to guns and gun violence in America, and it hasn't. While some states, including Connecticut and New York, have passed tougher gun laws, the only gun control effort in D.C., expanded background checks, that was rejected by the Senate, even though 90% of Americans say they do support it. But the question is there a second act to this? Is there renewed hope for Congress to finally do something, anything, about guns and especially background checks in the coming weeks? Now, earlier today, I spoke with Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal, and as you're going to hear here, he believes the answer to that question is yes. Take a listen. And we're very pleased to be joined by Connecticut Senator, Democrat Richard Blumenthal, who joins us from our nation's capital. Senator, thank you very much. I appreciate a few minutes.
Thank you.
You know, in many ways, there are a lot of folks who are invested in some real reform as it relates to gun laws in this country are conflicted because we're approaching a 6-month anniversary of a tragedy that you and obviously the people of Connecticut and those Newtown families know all too well, with no progress to date. But yet, in recent days, and now with an event coming up next week at the White House, there seems to be the sense that there might be a second act to this. Do you have any reason for optimism that we actually might get background checks passed right now, even in the climate that is Washington?
We have going for us a number of powerful facts. First, 90% of the American people favor common sense background checks on all firearms purchases and other sensible measures, such as a ban on illegal trafficking and mental health initiatives and school safety. And second, the families and community of Newtown have continued their efforts to speak truth to power, coming to Washington this week and once again speaking to my colleagues, giving voice and face to that unspeakable tragedy. That unimaginable horror transformed America and put us on an unstoppable trajectory toward gun violence prevention reform. And so I think there'll be a second act. We're going to bring back that bill. We're not going away, not giving in. Neither are the Newtown families. And so I believe in the end we will win. We lost the first vote, but it was a first vote, and I think we'll win the last vote.
Well, a political force beyond the NRA in this debate has been Mayor Michael Bloomberg. And as you know, he's made it clear that the 4 Democrats in the Senate who did not vote for background checks, he was going to be exercising his bank book, if you will, in their particular races. What do you make of it? I mean, he was open and he was up front that if they weren't getting behind this, he wasn't going to just strictly relegate the Republicans to bear the brunt. He was going to go after Democrats too. Do you think it's an effective use of his purse book here, or do you think he's going after the wrong people?
This cause ought to be completely bipartisan. We ought to support and praise the Democrats and Republicans who took tough votes and who may be in tough election battles this next time around. And so I would rather educate and inform and support the folks who stood up and spoke out in favor of background checks. And I'm hoping that the passion and commitment that Mayor Bloomberg brings to this cause will also help to support the friends and allies who took those very courageous political risks.
I want to get your response to what Vice President Biden had to say when he said that he's personally invested a lot of time with some of his former colleagues in the Senate as to getting behind, or why they wouldn't get behind, something so popular with the American public as the background checks, as you've indicated. And he said in part, and I'm quoting, "Have you ever seen a time when two freshman senators are able to cower the bulk of the Republican Party in the Senate? Not one of them, of the Republican senators he spoke to, offered an explanation on the merits of why they couldn't vote for the background check. But almost to a person, they said, I don't want to take on Ted Cruz. I don't want to take on Rand Paul. They'll be in my district." Pull the curtain back to the cloakroom and tell us, do lawmakers tell you, hey, Senator, I'd be behind you on this one. I just can't take on the Tea Party? Are you hearing that from Republicans who just don't want to take on forces within their own party?
I think we will have more Republican votes as they have an opportunity to talk to their constituents. And we need to organize the silent majority, a majority of the American people who strongly support the background checks, and make clear to their senators how they feel about this issue, because we have a historic opportunity. We have to remember that 6 months ago, gun violence prevention was thought to be untouchable as a political issue. Now, in my view, it's an unstoppable cause. Being on the right side of history for many of these senators will also be meaning being on the right side of their constituents.
Well, Senator, if I read between the lines here, I think that you have some optimism, something can be gotten done here, and I sure hope you're right. Senator Blumenthal, thank you very much for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that was my conversation earlier with the Senator. We'll be right back to talk about it after this.